aloha, Elaine. It's so wonderful to be with you today. Because I think a lot of people, a lot of your friends, closer and, not so close, they do not know so much about you. And it would be wonderful to, share a little bit about your life.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, because there was a time when I remembered, but I was almost forgetting what I did also. And I had to come back to it and see and make some sense of it all. So it was my grandfather and my grandmother were both in the theater. On my mother's side, yes. And my father's side, my grandfather was an inventor, and my grandmother was a missionary, an inventor. Oh, yes, and my grandfather was a minister, Lutheran minister, and in order to be with my grandmother, he joined the theater and left ministry. But I had a minister and then an actress, and she was also in the circus. Her brother could do anything with a ball, and her uncle was the strongest man on earth. And so, but anyway, so as you see, it was quite a mix, and they were really characters. They were not your typical small-town people at all. But the thing is, that was a tremendous influence on me. Now, they never talked me into dancing.
Hey! Act up to the troubles in your roll. Get back and smile, smile, smile. While you look the first tonight, in the good old summer.
I was born in a little town by the Maumee River called Napoleon, Ohio. And this was a place where everybody knew you, and you knew everybody.
Hold her hand and she holds yours, and that's a very good sign, a sign that she...
My brother received as a birthday present, my oldest one, a full regalia of Tom Mix's cowboy outfit for children. It was authentic, with fur chaps and gun belt, those authentic gun of the day, his glad rag, and everything was authentic. So they were going to take his picture. And they said, well, no, everybody should be in the picture. So they pulled my brother Jack in, and he's just dressed like every day, nothing special. But me, I was taking a nap. And they pulled me out of bed with my underwear and sat me in front of my brothers, and I didn't know that I was going to look like a tousled mess for history. Yeah,
Looks like he's afraid of his older brother.
Well, do you kind of sense something like he's aiming his gun at his younger brother? Why did you have to be born anyway? A sort of feeling. I have a feeling that it might be that. And of course, I was always admonished, like, you can't come with us because you're a girl. But I don't ever remember taking umbrage at that. Can't I pass any tests that would equal me to a boy, that I was just as good as a boy? And they said, well, we'll think of something maybe. And I remember the first test was I was supposed to be tickled on the bottoms of my feet without jiggling, wiggling, or laughing, or anything. I had to remain perfectly calm while they tickled me on the bottom of my feet. And so that when the turn came, I passed the test. One of those other tests I was telling you about, they would build like a skeletal frame of a house, and before they put any floors in. So at the top rafter that went from one end of the house to the other, down, there's actually 4 floors. You have 40 feet or so, and you can see the basement floor. In order to join our club, you have to walk from this end all the way to the other end without holding on to anything. So I did. Well, I don't understand how I'm still alive today with my brothers who taught me so much. But I walked that beam all the way to the other side. But it was my mother didn't see that because I didn't tell her, because it was part of the whole deal, see?
Right, that you didn't
Yeah.
rat on them. Get
Yeah,
them in
that's
trouble.
right. I'm not going to be that kind of a person. And it went on and on and on. And they never, ever let me in their club. So I started my own club with younger boys that I could boss around.
Smart.
It was a wild and woolly childhood, but we all lived through it, and we had, with all our body parts intact. My mother took me to a lady who taught tap dancing, and there was a show, and I had to do a cowboy dance. I had my cowboy hat and my cowboy boots and the glad rag, and the whole bit. And I was doing my tap dancing. And the glad rag came loose and fell to the floor. And so I kept on tap dancing and did this maneuver where I went down and down and picked up the glad rag and put it back on and didn't miss a step. And when it was over, I bowed and I received my applause. I went backstage and she scolded me and said I should never have done that. And I thought, don't you know that was a very, very difficult thing to do? And I showed an incredible degree of talent to be able to do that at all. And I said, I told my mom, I said, I'm not going back. So again, I started my own theater group with my brother, and we did circuses, and not knowing about our past. These things just pop up like mushrooms in spring, We did our own shows. You had some talent, so you got to be able to do things in front of people, your friends, neighbors, your family. And we had dancing in that, or acting, playing the lead in the play that was there that night, or doing the dance routine and so on. And so it was theater and dance. Of course, I thought, well, it would be a good idea maybe if I took some dancing lessons. But the thing is, I'm not built for ballet,
No.
I'm not built for ballet. It wasn't what I felt I wanted to do.
The moon belongs to everyone. The best things in life are free. The stars belong to everyone. They gleam there for you and me. The flowers in spring, the robins that sing, sunbeams that shine, they're yours, they're mine, and love can come to everyone, 'cause the best things in life are free. Take 'em, take 'em.
Another bride, another June, another sunny
I took my graduate work at the Sorbonne, and I was doing research.
I love Paris in the fall.
Reading in French. Boy, it wasn't as easy to find information then.
When it drizzles.
But it was exciting.
I love Paris in the summer when it seasons.
Love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. This I tell you, brother, you can't have one without the other. Love and marriage, it's an institute you can't disparage. And
Ask the local gentry, and they will say it's elementary. Try to separate them. It's an illusion. Try, and you will only come to this conclusion.
I was very, very lucky to have two women who came to Bowling Green State University. One because she married a professor. She was a prima ballerina of the Boston Ballet. And then the associate editor of Dance Magazine also came. Two of them got together, and then they looked around to find some people who might be interested in a troupe. And they knew their business. They were really good at what they did. Modern dance and ballet and choreography and the whole shot. We really got a dose, and then we were only a few of us. So it was an incredible gift. When I went to college, I did all sorts of choreography and everything with the shows and so on. And they said, let's do a project that will include dance, and we'll give you credit for your master's for it. And so I did a couple of shows. I did a dance version of Our Town, and with original music. I tell you about Thornton Wilder's Our Town. I actually had gone to Jacob's Pillow that summer and found out that Thornton Wilder was on the next mountain over, Sugarloaf Mountain, where the writers were. I was where the dancers were. That was Jacob's Pillow. And I just called him up and said, I want to speak to Thornton Wilder. Just a minute. Oh, is this, yeah, is this, oh, it really is. I said, well, I want to speak to you about doing Our Town as a dance drama. There was a silence. Well, let's meet at this little restaurant. They're closed, but they'll open up for us and we can talk about it. Okay. They gave us a whole dining room and we pushed away all the furniture, and I described. We did do it. But the end result was they gave me 6 hours credit instead of 3. They all cooperated with me. They allowed me to do what I wanted to do, and this is the chord that goes all through my life. Allow me to do what I want to do. Now, there was a lot of success in that, and there were also some not so good things if you're allowed to do what you want to do all your life. She was born in 1950. She also danced, and she's a wonderful artist. And she came to the university, and she was part of the dance group. This was before the company of dancers. She went to New York. I didn't want her to go. And she did get into some commercials and this and that was going on there. That was in the early 70s. Well, you asked me about my son. He was born in 1955, and my heaven certainly inadvertently has followed the role of the maverick, even when he was very, very young. He knew what he wanted to do. He was what I call a prime mover or a self-mover. Kind of disconcerting for anybody who feels they're in charge. When he was about to go to high school, he was on the wrestling team, and he was good at what he did, and they wanted to be in the football team. And they said, no, because I do not like competition. He says, I think it's a waste of time. And they didn't believe him. And one day they surrounded him and said, you think you're too good for us, don't you? He says, no, that's not it at all. If you attack me, I'll fight back. He says, otherwise I don't want to fight. But that was indicative of the kind of person he was. I have to let him do what he wants to do. I am a dancer and a mother and a teacher and a gardener and a cook and an activist. And is there a name for that?
Then you better
in the late 60s and 70s were incredible in my private life and every other way you can think of. The Vietnam War, all the things that were going on with that. The students saying, hell no, I won't go. There was something going on about opening up to what was happening in America. This is wrong. The Vietnam War was wrong. It was a terrible thing. So it thrust us into this exploration into self. And that began to shift so much of what I was doing. I saw a film series called The Tribal Eye. I saw, why are those people dancing the way they are dancing? There's something really different here. I gotta know what's going on here. Primal dance forms. What were they up to anyway?
Once, each tribe inhabited its separate world. Today, the boundaries are disappearing, and European man has crossed them all.
Guess what? Tommy. I mean, something was going on with this thing called Tommy. The Who, yeah. From The Who. He was in London at the time. It was madness. It wasn't a musical. It was a piece of music. There was no script. There was nothing. It was a series of songs. But this was movement, all movement and dance. I had to basically write the script so that it became a story. The show was a success, and we did get national attention. People who are in the arts absolutely know that the origin of their art comes from nature, that there is no separation. Without understanding and loving nature, you would not have what we call art, which is an emulation of life forms on this earth, of the miracle of life. I was told, it's impossible not to have waste. What are you talking about? And so I started seeing if I could find ways of living and what we now call recycling. I don't think recycling, the word recycle, was in the dictionary yet. Am I still doing it today? Yes, that's why I have a garden. You'll know when something's right is behind your back, all kinds of good things happen.
So tell me about all the dance companies that you founded over the years.
Well, basically it seems like, the Toledo Dance Theater, and the Valois Company of Dancers, and the University Dancers, Mommy School of Ballet and Dance Theater.
Yeah, that's 4 schools.
Yeah,
So
school, that's a school. Yeah, that's a school, not a company.
Okay, but most people only do one of 4 in a lifetime.
Then you get together with some musicians and friends and they say, well, let's start a dance theater here in Toledo. Okay, we'll do that. And then, of course, I started the dance company with the primal rituals, finding out about what would become the world of dance's living history. All of those things were just bubbling in the 70s. And then, of course, I met Gene Houston and Moshe Feldenkrais. And oh my God, we were going everywhere and seeing what we needed to see. And I was bringing in people, guest artists, residencies at the university. That all started. And Shirley Moore Dean and Bella Lewitsky and
Bella Lewitsky was a remarkable dancer.
Bella was
iconic. She was a legend.
To me, she was like a goddess. My God, Bella could balance on a dime. It was extraordinary.
The force of what she was able to do was fantastic.
The theater of the open eye, and I don't know what some of the professors at the university must have thought, but I was in my world. I was just totally engrossed in my world. PhD work and all the academic work was completed. They did just open up the film library at the Smithsonian, the South Indian dance forms and then the Balinese, and you could see the connection between the two because one came from the other, and the African dance forms and the Spanish and Chinese, and it was called The World of Dance's Living History, and I found ways for them to understand the depth of what kind of dance forms. The World of Dance's Living History was what I was going to use as my dissertation, as a 10-part film series.
When we were doing shows in the schools,
Yes.
a program called Tribes,
Yes.
we would actually let the teacher pick that special child. That wasn't always accepted, are very popular with other children.
And especially so. In other words,
Especially
it had
so.
to be the one,
Yeah, the one that was picked
unlikely,
on,
the most
bullied,
unlikely one.
and that child became the center of the dance and, in a sense, the shaman, the one with power. And you could just see in the children's faces as they started to come into this awareness of their own power, how that changed them.
Yes.
And
There was this one boy who failed school his class 2 or 3 times. He's the sweetest little thing. And the teacher decided, I said, who do you think really needs something? Who really, not the most talented and smart child, but the one who's the neediest one in your whole class. So she picked him, and he was.
maybe he was.
He became, at that moment, he truly became a shaman. And how the students responded to him after that, because I talked to the teachers later, I said, well, what happened? 6 weeks later, what's going on? Totally different kid.
Yeah.
And we had many of those experiences with children who were, in a sense, left behind by their own tragic history. And they're left to be alone and isolated and unheard. These children just, from that opportunity to be at that one time empowered. Remember how we empowered? Create your own language, create
Their
your
own
name,
tribal name,
your
a
own
chant,
tribal, a chant.
Song chant.
Yeah, they did chants. The whole school was engrossed. Everybody. The hardest, I told you about the dark night of the soul, that when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, I was in Ojai with Gene Houston at the time. And I went, from California to New York, boom, boom, just like that, in a hurry. And there's so many things going on at that time. And I remember having to leave my classes and have other people teach the courses and so on. I was like in 6 different places at once, but we spent 4.5 years fighting the cancer. We discovered Optimum Health Institute in San Diego, and we spent 3 weeks together. The only time in all our lives that we two were absolutely together without anybody else around for 3 whole weeks. And we had the most fun. It was so sweet. It was wonderful. prior to her passing, her father died very suddenly. I did not know if I were truly alive or not. It was like, I felt like I was a ghost. Nobody could see me because I didn't really exist to anybody. I just could see the world with eyes, but I wasn't there. It took me about 5 years to get over that. The gift of grief is the invitation to love through and because of despair. And that's its gift. If you don't despair, you can't really know what love is. And there is a sadness that haunts me. But I hope the consequence of that is still more love. At that point in my life, I was open, genuinely open to real change. If somebody said, "Do you want to go to South America and take ayahuasca?" Okay. That's the way it was then. And we did ayahuasca, and we were with the natives themselves. And we were totally remote.
What does dance mean to you?
It keeps meaning more and more, and the one thing I can say is that it is meaning rather than what it means. It is the creation of meaning in my life. It makes my life meaningful. And the more I experience what it can do, what it says, how it connects with human behavior and even with human evolution, that it really has fascinated me deeply. The more I get in touch with it, the more I realize it is through movement that first of all, we cannot possibly lie. It's our absolute truth. And through this truth that we experience, we become more than we were before. It is possible to use dance that way.
These are Kalaga masks, almost the only ones not carved by blacksmiths. Each is made by the dancer himself for his own initiation.
And that's what you want to experience when you dance. When somebody said, well, it's like exercise, exercise dance. I said, I know that you can treat it that way, but dance comes from a different source. I got a good amount of credit for being with Jean Houston and doing the research there. Jean Houston used the word kinesthetic body, and it was Bob Masters who used the word imaginal. It's the actual imaginal body. It's something that you do not see. He said these are the things that they do in ritual before they do any kind of performance or religious ceremony. But I said, I want to know more about what this means. And it really is a movement meditation. I was inspired to do workshops called Dance the Brain, Mind, Body. Break the barriers of what we call acceptable. My own experience with that made me realize that what had happened in America and in Europe as well is that the arts took on spectacle. It took us away from the fact that dance is a religious experience. The dance was primarily a journey into soul, a dialogue with God. What I discovered is that the trance, no matter, there's a lot of different forms all over the world, but when you come to trance dancing, it's the same everywhere. It's a universal experience. Entering into another matrix, it's like every aspect of your body, including your eyes, your tongue, your sternum, your rib cage, everything is dealt with in very subtle ways where you experience things that bypass the limitations you have by what you believe of yourself. That it's possible. He called it the seduction of consciousness through novelty and pleasure.
Probably one of my favorite classes that wasn't dancey dance class was dance history. The first time I experienced dance as a ritual, and it was through the films that you brought back, films of primal tribes doing trance dance and the rituals, and absolutely amazing rites of passage. And one I particularly remember is a woman who became a snake, and her tongue was darting in and out, and it wasn't a human theatrical gimmick. She was a snake for the moment she was dancing. You know, it suddenly connected to me that this is more than performance dance.
Yes, it's more than spectacle, it's more than entertainment. Primal thing that happens, you truly become what you behold.
It's called Flight, and it was done in 1981 for the first time when we were doing a concert called Voyager, and we used the music and the sounds that they sent in outer space on Voyager 1, and we did a whole concert based on all of those sounds and all the music that they sent on that gold record. And one of the things that we did was to represent this sense of going out beyond our own edges. it really has to do with how grounded we must be, how much we must know our own earth place in order for us to venture forward into new consciousness. We cannot ignore that any longer. We must be grounded before we can fly. We must have roots before we can have wings. And it's that wonder of coming to a new place, not just in the space, not just in outer space, but in inner space. We're coming to a new place there too. And that's what it represents, is that kind of wonder of becoming.
Talk about disappointment. There will be disappointments. And I think, why did this have to stop? But it was the people who were controlling the purse strings. And you have to remember that at that time, the arts programs at universities and public schools and everything was shutting down. It was that Mapplethorpe exhibit, and it was kind of controversial, and they closed down the National Endowment for the Arts. Professional companies were stopping. People, dance departments in California that had 10 faculty members were closed down. Well, yeah, you can do anything you want as long as you don't spend our money, as long as we don't have to pay for it. It was not special at my university at all. It was everywhere across the country.
I would like to have a reunion concert with all the people that have been in the company in the years past, because we've been in existence since 1974. And so there are quite a few people out there that could come back from New York and California and Florida and Canada, and they're all over the place in Europe. It'd be wonderful.
Blind trust. There's no such thing as blind trust. You have to see where you're going and then take an intelligent risk. But that there is such a thing as an educated risk, all right? Can you do that tonight? like to see a lifting and lowering because it'll cause the costume to puff out and float and also change. It looks like you are actually rising and falling and diving and things like that.
It's just like
Good to create some movement for her gently, if you can, if that's possible. Lowering and lifting and see if she can play with that. I don't know whether that's it. And then,
About the final metamorphosis. Kind of switch on that story about Eden.
I met Elaine, I was about 2 years into an undecided major here at the University of Toledo, and I took a dance class, finally. I was scared to death to do it. And I fell in love with dance and I decided to major in it. That's when I met her. I worked with her for about 2.5 years. Elaine has always been a really inspiring person to me. She's always involved the emotional, human nature and spirituality in dance, and that's what really turns me on about dance. The more meditative aspect of the dance, getting your inner self ready.
I think she's inspired and inspiring. She's just incredible.
It's kind of sad because we know she's not going to be around.
Dancers, take your places.
Run, step, turn.
You tired? You tired?
You rat. You kitty rat. No, I'm not tired. Feels good. I made a million mistakes and it feels good anyway. So.
Dance for little dogs.
Here. Come here and to stop. See? That's what I do.
So you gotta come up. When you turn, you gotta.
Stop it. Yeah, you have a little bit of, and then you have to initiate the momentum. Well, I'm scared down there.
Oh, shit. I'm dry.
Thank you.
We are now opening the house, and it's a big crowd, I can tell you.
Look who's here! Don't be These are it. These are the guys. These are the ones that cause all this trouble.
No, she was.
No. You've done it without you. I just love you guys so much. I can't stand it.
I have so many wonderful thoughts about Elaine and how she changed my life. And I also, when I thought about a story for the ceremony, thought of a lot of sad stories and very sad times that we've been through, and how many of the big changes in our lives often paralleled each other.
As one of your original Valois Company dancers,
Oh, wow.
all right. I would like to say just simply, I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Oh.
People's point. This could go on forever, couldn't it?
Yes, it could.
I went over to the studio, and she watched me working out and let me use the studio, by the way, just because I needed it, and never asked for a dime or anything, and said, go in and work. And then she kind of peeked in one day and said, would you like to join the company? And after that, I learned that this lady represented life as larger than life, and I really mean that. I've never seen her turn anyone away, even in the face of her own tragedies and traumas. She always was there.
And I also remember being naked on the summer solstice.
Boy, did I remember that.
I'd like to relate another fire story since it just brought a memory back to me. It's always been one of my favorites. Of having like a cookout in her backyard once. But not just a cookout, there was a bonfire, and you know, you're not supposed to burn leaves or anything in Toledo.
I knew this was against the law.
You know,
So everything I do is
15 years
against the
ago.
law.
Peaked in rehearsal, and that was just that much too far into that studio. And Elaine goes, come on in here. You're not getting away that easily. And before I knew it, I wasn't just watching, I was doing it.
To ego is so intense under these circumstances that we just have to get buckets and buckets of love.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what the reunion
yeah,
concert is
yeah.
about, buckets of love.
Yeah.
At that point in my life, I was open, genuinely open to real change. That's the way it was then. I was recovering from an extremely dark night of the soul with the loss of my daughter, the selling of my home, the end of my family and my life as I knew it, the end of my teaching at the university. Everything was saying goodbye, and so it was time to say hello to something else. Well, come to Kauai, she said, and see what you think about that.
Have you seen
these islands. Have you seen the beauty of this land? Do you know its people? Brothers, sisters, walking hand in hand.
It was 1998, and guess who I met? Les, and we've been together ever since.
Miles and miles of crystal deep blue sea.
And here it is, 2018. That's 20 years ago.
Never more to say goodbye. Never more to say goodbye.
So what if you were going to give some kind of perspective or really meaningful to you in your life at 90 years of age? What would you have to say to us youngins at 60-something?
Forget about being a sage. We're always learning, and it's not such a big deal. What else can we do? I think I can...
Just keep dancing.
Yeah, yes. And of course, I wanted to specialize into the mystery. I felt there was still some unfinished business here. Some other people who have used this work, some nurses and so on, have discovered that patients can bypass, the corporeal limitation. People like Deepak Chopra and Jean Houston too. Others started using the term imaginal cells and using the transformation of chrysalis into the butterfly. What happens there? What is going on there?
Strange to begin with. This approach to dance is really different. It's like you were talking about, it's coming from the inside rather than following some steps and trying to learn a procedure and memorize it. It's allowing the essence within to first emerge like a flower blooming and then become the fragrance in the movement. It's a redefinition of the art of dancing for me, and it's finding home. See, there's a sense of home being different than this physical body, that awareness that we're more than this. But where is that more? You know? Is it in the liver? Is it in the heart? Is it in the brain? It's none of that. It's in the intangible, imaginal field of our essence. And that is always here. Sometimes we just don't recognize it. So what I feel you've been bringing to this awareness field through the kinesthetic incorporation of movement of the physical body and the imaginal body together draws a parallel where there's a deeper sense of self. That self of resonant field of who I truly am, perfect health, imaginally correct here now, with that ego projected realization of being in physical form, which may have some aches and pains and not quite able to do everything I would love to do in dance. When you bring the two together through movement like you do, where I can lift my actual arm and have my imaginal arm come up and join it, and in that doing, there's a sudden realization that this actual arm has much more capability than I ever thought it would. The capability of the pure imaginal self. And then as we move backward and forward and lean left and right and separate our essence and form from our essence in imagination or imaginal perspective and bring them back together again, for me, it brings a deeper awareness of who I truly am to who I think I am so I can let go of who I think I am and live more of who I really am. And the only way to truly know it is to feel it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what these workshops bring to the forefront. We can talk about it all day.
We do.
And we do. But when we actually get out there in real life with others and experience that movement of ourselves within ourselves, then you get the taste for it, the smell of it,
yes,
the essence of the truth.
I'm very happy I did what I did and I stayed here. It was a blessing. It was a real gift.
Got a little rhythm, a rhythm, a rhythm that pitter-pats through my brain. So darn persistent, the day isn't distant when it'll drive me insane. Comes in the morning without any warning and hangs around me all day. I'll have to sneak up to it someday and speak up to it. I hope it listens when I say,
It's so wonderful to be with all of you at the party of the year. So I'm very proud to be able to present this council certificate that's been signed by all members of the county council. So the council of the county of Kauai hereby presents this certificate to Elaine Valois, celebrating 90 years of a vibrant, giving life. I'll take you. Born in Napoleon, Ohio on August 27, 1928.
Right now, so overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. You know I'm Stay, we're going to dance. Gabby and I are going to dance. I had to tell you that the dance we're doing is based, all of this is based on events in my life. And when I was a kid, we'd go to the Saturday afternoon matinees, and afterwards we would enact or reenact everything we saw. But there was one that my daughter and I used to do when we saw Laurel and Hardy in a movie called Way Out West in 1937 with the Avalon brothers, and they go to stop at a saloon. And so we're going to reenact At the Ball That's All with Laurel and Hardy tonight.